For years, I have researched impossible stories, tales that most dismiss as inventions, exaggerations, or simple misunderstandings. But there was one day when I encountered a pattern so strange, so unsettling, that I had to accept that something more was happening. Anonymous people from different places around the world and separated by decades reported seeing individuals who seemed out of place. Not because of their clothing, nor their accent, nor even their behavior, but because of their presence. It was as if each one carried the same shadow in their gaze, a silent void that did not fit with the era in which they appeared. These stories had a common thread. Everyone described these individuals as travelers, but not ordinary travelers, time travelers. Beings who, according to witnesses, appeared at key moments in history, observing from a distance without intervening. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, another typical baseless legend. However, everything changed when I received a package with no return address. Inside were old, worn photographs, some so deteriorated that they barely retained their shape. Each photo showed the same figure in different eras, always in the background, always looking in the same direction, as if they knew exactly what was about to happen. The most disturbing part was that in the last image, my city appeared on a date very close to the present. And there was again that figure clearer than ever, watching. It was then that I understood that these stories were not distant echoes of human imagination. They were warnings, because these travelers were not lost in time. They were following something, or perhaps someone, and for some reason that I still do not understand, they had now come to me. The researchers studying these cases began to notice a disturbing pattern. None of the supposed time travelers seemed to know precisely how they had arrived in the present, but they all shared the same expression of absolute bewilderment, as if they had been ripped from their reality without warning. One of the strangest stories came from a man found in an alley in Berlin, dressed in a military uniform that did not match any recorded era. When questioned, he said that his battalion was marching through a snowy area when, suddenly, the sky turned dark and the sound disappeared. When he regained consciousness, he was surrounded by modern buildings and lights that he did not understand. Another case spoke of a girl found in Japan, carrying a metallic object that resembled a polished sphere with no visible mechanism. She claimed it was a gift from her brother and that she had received it just hours before appearing on another continent, in another century. The scientists did not know what to think. Some believed it was a psychological phenomenon. Others suggested memory failures caused by trauma. But there was a small group that defended a more radical theory. According to them, the timelines were much more fragile than we imagined. Time was not a single arrow, but a complex web where certain areas could tear, allowing isolated individuals to fall into the wrong years. This theory, although risky, explained why the travelers seemed to be ordinary people with no connection to each other. They were not scientists, they were not experimenters, they were not seeking to travel. They had simply been victims of a temporal error. And if that error was occurring more frequently, it meant that something serious was damaging the very structure of time. As the researchers analyzed every detail of the captured time travelers, they began to notice a disturbing pattern that no one wanted to admit aloud. It wasn't just that their stories were impossible, it was that they seemed incomplete, as if both were hiding something they could not reveal. One spoke of a temporal collapse that had fragmented entire lines of reality, while the other mentioned a pursuit, a kind of shadow that moved faster than time itself. Every word they uttered seemed calculated with precision, as if they feared that a poorly chosen phrase could alter something beyond our understanding. Meanwhile, in secret facilities around the world, clocks began to register micro variations in continuity, small distortions that did not match any known activity. It was as if the presence of those travelers was affecting the structure of time around them. Some scientists proposed that perhaps they were not mere visitors, but living signals of a greater event that was approaching. I watched from a monitoring room as the data appeared on the screen, fluctuating timelines, anomalies that flickered on and off like the nervous pulses of the universe. In the background, a disquieting feeling grew like an endless echo. Perhaps they had not arrived by accident. Perhaps they were warnings sent from a future desperately trying to correct the mistakes of its own existence. And with each passing minute, the sense that something big was approaching became harder to ignore. The temporal rift expands, 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 the temporal rift expands. The following days revealed signs that no one was prepared to interpret. Every researcher, every agency, and every monitoring station agreed on one thing. Time was behaving like a wounded organism. These were not mere fluctuations, but tiny ruptures that appeared and disappeared at various points on the planet. Some lasted seconds, others barely an imperceptible fraction, but all left traces. Images that should not exist, sounds of past events, and shadows that did not correspond to any living person. The most unsettling appearance occurred in a coastal city, where a group of witnesses claimed to see a building that had never been there, a monument of black stone that vanished within minutes. Experts began to understand that these ruptures were not accidental. They were synchronized with the presence of captured time travelers, as if their mere existence exerted pressure on the temporal fabric. One of them warned that this was just the beginning of something larger. He spoke of a force that pursued any temporal deviation, an entity that did not belong to any known era. According to him, that shadow fed on unstable worlds, on lines that had been altered. And now, drawn by the ruptures generated in our reality, it was approaching with terrifying precision. The line unravels the line, 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 unravels.